I want to tell a story, and I've told this story probably a couple times on this podcast, but because you're on here, it's only fitting. So when I was getting ready to turn 30, you and I were neighbors. You were building your house in Manhattan Beach, and I was renting a couple blocks from your rental, so we'd run into each other. And I asked you basically for some time and some counsel and some advice, and we spent about an hour and a half just grabbing coffee one afternoon. And the two things that you really stuck out were just how you trained in your 30s, the difference of how you trained, and I've applied that to my own training. And then the other part of that was I asked you, you were going into your last year with the Lakers. You had dealt with some injuries while you were there. And I asked you, I was like, why are you still playing? And you I'll never forget what you said. You said, once you stop playing, you can never get that back. You can have the rest of your life to do whatever you want to do. But once you stop playing, that phase of your life is over for good. And at the time, I thought you were crazy. You're 10 years older than me. I didn't have that perspective yet. But it's so interesting to me as first of all, thank you for the time, but it's so interesting to me as I get older and I'm getting towards the end. I'm like, no, I just want to continue this as long as possible. It's like every year that goes by, I'm like, no, I'll play till 37. No, I'll play till 38. I'll play like I want to keep going, and it's just remarkable how that statement has impacted me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad I could help, but I mean, it is like, you've probably done this. You fall in and out of love with the game, and
yeah.
You go through periods. I remember a period when it was tough for me in my mid-20s. I was like, I'm only going to play a few more years and I'm done. And like then when I'm 38, 39, 40, I worked out twice a day for 2 years. When I was with the Lakers, I literally worked out twice a day for 2 years to try to overcome my issues. Flying up to Vancouver for physical therapy and try absolutely everything. Like never worked harder in my life just to be a part of it still and to play. And of course, you get a bit blind, you still think you can do it and you're the last to know, in a way. I remember Nick Young saying to me one day, like he was my teammate the last year with the Lakers before I retired. And like, I really thought I could still play. It's just, I was having a hard time overcoming this injury and more so like recovering between games and stuff. And Nick was like, man, he's like, what's it like to know what you used to do to cats? And I was like, this motherfucker just called me out so bad. And it was like a wake up call. Like I still couldn't admit, but it was a glimpse. It was a glimpse, like, you must look really bad out there if he's like this. It's such a difference from who you were. So like it gives you that little window of yourself, and all of these little pictures, it ends up being a fabric of the end and figuring it out. But you're right. I was so lost in that wanting to just maximize and enjoy every last minute I had with the game, because I knew over that fence, you peer out over that fence and you see like an endless like skyline, right? And basketball's not in it. And what am I going to do? And, I'm a guy with tons of interests and opportunities, but still like the one thing that gave you purpose, identity, a routine, a team, a family, a camaraderie, a challenge, even little, like we're so used to playing in front of, 20,000 people, but like think it's just like, it's a hole to play 18 years and then not be able to drive downtown every other night and show off in front of 20,000 people. Like that's a hole. Like you can't replace that. And so, it is like there's an old adage, the athlete dies twice. And, when you finish playing is your first death. And honestly, I think to be happy and fulfilled going forward, this is the way I approached it, is you have to be willing to become someone new. And you can't tie your identity to basketball. You can't hold on to that, or that's glory days, right? Like that's when you're the same person at 50, 60, relating to that person. You never get away from that person, so you can never find the peace and happiness and the second chapter in full spirit, full blood. So it is a tricky time, and yeah. So I mean, I encourage you to do everything you can to play as long as you can, to put yourself in a position one day to be like, okay, I'm good. Like, whether you decide to, or your body decides to, or the league decides to, you can at least be like, I'm good. I gave it everything. Like my Lakers situation, I've never worked so hard in my life. I've never wanted something so bad in my life, just to play, not to be an all-star or, star or anything, just to play, just to contribute, just to help that team. And that was the toughest time of my career for sure, but it was worth it, because I left being like, I gave it absolutely everything I had.